Hey guys, so I finally made the video for the mold tutorial and I'll be explaining everything and all the steps as we go along, so let's get started. So the mold I'm using is from Amazing and I think you can get this at any craft store. I believe it's $24 and Michael's has a 50% off coupon almost every single day, so I usually only buy this when they have that coupon. So for the Tupperware containers, the size of them is really just going to depend on how big your pieces are that you want to mold. And so these are the ones I'm going to be using, and those are the cabochons that I will be molding um, in those two Tupperware containers. So first off, you want to arrange your cabochons in a way that will make them all fit nicely in the Tupperware container for the mold. And that's just what I'm doing here and with my other mold. So to glue them onto the Tupperware container, I use a hot glue gun. I find this easy because I can just kind of like pull them off of the Tupperware container when the mold is finished and dry, and it doesn't cause any damage to the pieces or to the container. I find that this method works best with pieces that are kind of caved in the back and not domed on the back because then the mold won't leak under and it'll be easier for you to just take out the mold. You won't have to trim any of the excess that leaked under. And also, I don't recommend using white pieces because the mold is white. And so if it does leak under, it makes it way harder to trim off excess mold because you won't really be able to see what you're doing. Also, if you're gonna mold big flowers or very thick pieces, either try to mold them together in the same Tupperware or try to mold them separately by themselves in a single Tupperware so that you don't waste mold and the mold will be as thick as it needs to be without having to be wider than it needs to be. Molding a big flower that's tall and thick is gonna be a lot easier if you mold it by itself because you won't be wasting as much mold and the container needs to be small enough that it fits just that piece so that it'll get its thickness way faster with less mold than trying to mold it in a Tupperware like this where it's very wide. So for mixing the mold, there's a base and a catalyst. The base is the big tub, that's white liquid, and then there's a pink liquid, that's the catalyst. And for every 2 fluid ounces of the base, you put in 1 scoop of the catalyst, and so that's just what I'm doing here. Unfortunately, this mold stuff does smell really bad, but I don't find that it completely like covers my room in a really bad smell. I just open a window or turn on a fan and then it's completely fine to work with. The first molds I made with these were about a week and a half ago, and they do still have the smell, so I don't know what could be done about that. I haven't tried putting any kind of like scented oil in mixed in because I don't know how that would affect the base or the catalyst, but you could try if you want to. I honestly don't think you would really notice the smell of the mold while you're using it unless you like put it up to your face. So I don't see that being a problem really. I also haven't tried putting any kind of pigment into the mold. I know it would make it easier to kind of trim the excess mold off if the mold wasn't white, if you were using white pieces, but I don't know how any kind of pigment would affect the curing time of the mold, so I haven't tried that. Last thing I'm going to include, just in case anyone is wondering, out of the 2 tubs I've used, I don't think my measurements were off, but I haven't been able to get an equal amount of ounces out of both of them, which caused me to use half a scoop of catalyst. I don't know if like that would be a problem to anyone, but just in case anyone was wondering. For the mixing, after you add the catalyst, the consistency is going to become kind of weird. Like the base doesn't want to mix with the catalyst, but you just have to keep mixing until the consistency is the same throughout, and then you'll be ready to pour the liquid into the Tupperware. Okay, so when you're ready to start pouring, you want to make sure you pour in one corner the entire time at a very consistent, slow rate to make sure that any air bubbles pop before they get to the bottom of the Tupperware. These molds take about 2 to 4 hours to dry. I don't think it depends on how thick or how much mold you used. I think that's just the curing time for all of it. And I find that pretty fast because you can easily use your molds the same exact day that you make them. Okay, so now that they're dry, they're ready to be popped out. I use this wooden stick thing. You can find anything that's pretty sturdy and just start trying to pop out the sides or like make them unstick from the sides of the Tupperware because that'll make it easier for you to pop out the entire mold. You just have to keep doing this all around the sides until you can get the stick or whatever kind of tool you're using under one corner of the mold so that you can pop it out. And some of the pieces will kind of try to stay glued onto the Tupperware, but you can just slide whatever tool you're using under them and the glue will just pop right off the Tupperware. If you use pieces that aren't kind of caved in on the back, like I talked about before, the mold might have seeped under the back of the pieces. And so you're just going to want to use an X-Acto knife and trim around them so that you have kind of the shape of what the piece is and you can easily pour resin into it. Make sure you trim the cavities while the pieces are still in there because the X-Acto knife is not sharp enough to kind of cut the mold and trim it without the pieces being there as like a flat, hard base for you to cut. So make sure the pieces stay in there until you're done trimming. I actually had some trouble trimming the hand, the skeleton hand, because it was white, and that's exactly why I don't recommend using white pieces unless they're kind of caved in on the back because you literally just can't see them, so it's really difficult to try to trim white on white. A lot of these pieces that I use to make these molds, the resin pieces are from Decoden on Instagram, DAECO.den. They're super cute pieces and I really liked them and I just wanted to shout her out because they were really nicely made and I do plan on using them in the future, but they were so cute that I had to have molds of them. The trimming does not have to be perfect. As long as it's not wider than the front of the mold, you'll be fine. I've trimmed stuff very bad in my first molds, and they still came out pretty fine, especially the flowers and things like bows. They don't have to be perfect trimmings, so you don't have to really worry about that. Also, if you don't want to trim anything at all, just buy modeling clay that isn't air dry and it's not the same as polymer clay and spread it out evenly on the bottom of the Tupperware and then pour your mold in after you press the pieces down and none of the mold will leak under the pieces. After you finish trimming, you should pop your pieces out and you'll have perfect pieces that are undamaged and a perfect mold. Thank you so much for watching and follow me on Instagram.